All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, people from all over. Karibuni sana kwa hii show. Welcome to this great conversation we are about to have. We are about to have an awesome, decent conversation here at Afrique 24. Tunao show moja fiti sana. This one you will enjoy. This one will really inform you, just like any other show that we always have. We really work very hard to make sure that we give you content that one educates you, informs you, and gives you a chance to participate in the conversations we have. Normally it's just a debate where unatupa opinion yako, maana hii ni show yako, wewe uje ujiandae na kung'amua maswala ambayo tunaangalia. Kuna vitu mingi tunaangalia, na kama kawa in Kenya, we don't lack content, we don't lack something we can talk about. Thank you very much for always being part of this great conversation. Asante tu sana. Welcome to this show. I'm your host Jakes, the moderator. This is Afrique 24. Karibu sana. Ninao swala moja fiti, ninao swala moja kubwa. Hii wadau, hii mtapenda. This one you're going to love because we will go back in time. We will talk about issues that has trended for quite some time, what that have been used by some of our politicians for some time, and maybe we never sat back and discussed them and really looked at what they meant. All right, so that's what we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at our economy. Why is our shilling falling? And Atwoli today has given a statement. When Atwoli today, I think jana tulimchokoza kidogo. Today he has spoken kidogo na some authority, and he has said something. I'll be looking at what Atwoli has said just about in a couple of minutes. All right, but zaidi yote, asante sana kwa wewe ambaye umekuwa ukitusupport. Asante sana kwa wewe ambaye umekuwa ukiingia kwa hii show, umekuwa ukisubscribe, ukilike our videos, ukicomment. Oh my goodness. Uki watch, I'm so grateful. This is something we don't take it for granted. We are always so appreciative. Tunashukuru sana. Asante sana wewe ambaye huwa unatusupport. Asante sana wewe ambaye huwa unaingia kwa hizi show kuzitazama, taking your time to watch, listening to what is happening in Kenya. Asante tu sana. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You are just but an amazing people. All right. So this is your show. I'm your host Jakes, the moderator. Wacha tuwe na ile show ambayo mnapenda, show fiti, na hii show inakuanga fiti kwa sababu ya kama nini, one, wewe ukilike. So like hii video mbio, asante sana. Unaingia kama umeilike. All right, like the video, click your like. Click your like if you're watching us via Mtembei, via Afrique 24. Like the video, just like it's free of charge. As you have joined to watch it equally, ikikupendeza finya like. Tuna discuss vitu kadha wa kadha na tunajaribu kung'amua mambo mengi. All right, we will be looking at some of the sentiments raised today, of course, equally from our leaders and other news making headlines. All right, so karibu sana kwa hii show. Welcome very much. And as usual, I'm your host, Jakes, the moderator. Let me know where this is finding you. Let me know where this is finding you. Ikiwa ndio umeingia, karibu sana. Watu wa USA, karibu. Watu wa Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, karibu. Watu wa Uganda, karibuni sana. Watu wa South Africa, watu wa Ivory Coast, mnapojinice na African Cup, karibuni sana kwa hii show. Watu wote ambao wanatazama from the US, from Canada, from Australia, UK, popote ambapo hii show inakufikia, karibu tu sana. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host Jakes, and of course this is your show. This show mmekuja kuifanya ikawa show kubwa, show fiti, show kali, show ambayo huwa mnaingojea. Inapofika hii masaa mnakuta imeanza na inakuwa show fiti kwa sababu you guys make it so good. I really love this show because of you guys. You are the guys who have made it big. You are the guys who have made it to be what it is. Asante sana wa Kenya. Asante sana our viewers. Thank you very much. Naona comments zinaingia, naona likes zinaingia. Like hii video popote ulipo, kama unaitazama via Facebook, like, and equally follow our page, that is Afrique 24. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is Afrique 24, and let us grow together. All right, wale wako Mtembei, karibu sana kwa hii channel. Tunao swala moja bigi ka notorious, swala fiti ambayo tunataka kuidiscuss. We'll be looking at state capture. What is state capture? Equally, we'll look at why our students missing school. Of course, that is one issue ambayo tutadiscuss in details. Kuko na so many types of bursaries. Kuko na wings to fly. Kuko na KCB loans ama bursaries. Kuko na CDF bursary. Kuko na governors bursary. Kuna hadi siku hizi za MCA wadau. Kuko na MP wanapeana of course through the CDF. Kuko na help. Kuko na many other ways ambazo our kids ought to be in school. Kuna capitations that are sent to our children ama to schools. But hey, over 300,000, ladies and gentlemen, as we said the other day, over 300,000 of our children are yet to join high school. So the best they're having is just a class 8 certificate. Right? That's the best they're having. And with the current country that we are having, and even the world, some levels siku hizi si kama tene, si kama zamani, some levels hazihesabiwi kama umesoma sana, you know. Hata form 4 kuna mahali hata degree inafika bado kaka, you need to kujituma zaidi, add more papers, you know, because the world is becoming competitive. The people are seeing serious books. So when a child is unable to progress because one, the parents are unable to meet the expensive cost of education in our country, what happens? What happens to these children? That's what we'll be looking at. Equally, we'll be looking at sentiments from Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga today has made a statement that informs the show. It is what he said that informs the show. You remember these were some of the complaints from Tanga then and now Kenya Kwanza concerning what they called state capture. I'll be taking you back on how all this began. I'll define for you today what state capture is and what state capture means and the dangers of a state captured country. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax. Hii ni ile show ambayo hauna mbio. Una pause, unafuatilia pole, point by point, bit by bit, hadi upate kila jambo ambalo tutakuwa tukilizungumzia. Nao pia watu watajiunga nami as I go on, all right? Okay, so hii haina mbio. I'll be taking you back. I'll be bringing you to where we are, and equally I'll be giving you definitions. I'll be giving you understanding and the in-depth knowledge of what is state capture, because that's the first item I want to look at. All right, so state capture ni nini wadau? State capture ni nini tumekuwa tukisikianga mapoints huku nje na zingine huwa tufuatilii, zingine zilitupita tu na tukaamua tu tuishi nazo. Bottom up ilitupita tu, tukaambiwa ni economic model, fine, tukaachana nayo tukaachana nayo. Sasa saizi hata I'm not sure if anyone even really cares what that was in the first place, because if hii ndio bottom up, wacha tu tukanyangie kubwa hapa nje, kwa sababu definition yake kama ni hivi, ni kugwanko danger. So hiyo ni statement moja. Ingine tukaambiwa ni state capture. State capture, na ndo hiyo tunataka kuangalia. All right, you remember Tanga would accuse the former regime, all right, which they were part of in a way. They would accuse the former regime of state capture, using state institutions and machinery to oppress its opponents. And they used that word, of course, to really mop up sympathy to Kenyans. You know, Kenyans really sympathized with these people. You know, these people were walikuwa wanateswa, according to them. These people walikuwa wananyanyaswa left, right, and center. So what did they wish to do? They wished to come in and liberate many from what they termed as state capture. You remember when they were saying freedom is here? You remember those slogans, freedom is here, because they were saying finally freedom itakuja na wao. There will be freedom from what they termed as state capture. I'll be taking you back in the day. I'll take you back even to the debate where one Rigiji described what is state capture. Unakumbuka hata alikuja na kamwa Kenya could try to describe what was state capture. I'll be bringing you all that, because that, ladies and gentlemen, probably was not state capture. What is happening now, as we are going to see, probably is what should be described as state capture. But before I even bring any definition, before I even bring anything, karibu tu sana. Sinisalamia wawili watatu. Asante sana Goodia. I see you. I hope sasa notification inafanya kazi. Karibu sana Goodia. Asante sana. Ezesh Mfinyi, ulikuwa wa kwanza kutuma ujumbe. Asante sana. Naona ulisema hivi, can I project that? I think I should. Ezesh Mfinyi anasema hivi, that the situation in our country is really hurting and equally annoying, to say the least. In short, kimeturamba at the moment. However, I don't know how and when, but all this nonsense shall come to pass. Maneno sugu kutoka Ezesh. Ezesh unadai ya kwamba kimeturamba kama taifa, kimetulamba, kimetufinya vibaya sana. Kitu moja ambayo uko sure nayo, ambayo for me it's like a sense of hope from you, is that somehow you don't know how, you don't know when, but in all this, eventually you're saying that this nonsense shall come to pass. Ama mwisho wa siku, kuna siku hizi stories zitakuja kuisha, kwa sababu wamekuja wengi walikuweko wengi, wenye majina tajika, wenye vifua, wenye kipara, wenye majina makuu, magari makuu, wenye walikuwa na uwezo mkubwa, lakini hata hao walipita. So according to the Ezesh Mfinya anasema, but all this nonsense, wewe umetumia jina nonsense, maybe mimi ningeruka hiyo part ya nonsense alafu niseme shall come to pass. Mwisho tu wa siku moja. I love that spirit that you still have hope. Asante sana. All right, naambie kwamba notification sasa inafanya kazi. All right, let's listen in to what informs this show.
Odinga now says the executive has held parliament captive and rendered parliamentary debates on key legislation as a mere formality. Speaking in Kilifi County, Odinga accused President William Ruto of muzzling parliament and using it to have government policies rubber-stamped with ease and without scrutiny. And as Stephen Leto reports, Odinga says the state capture has extended to the judiciary.
Odinga was in the third day of ODM party membership recruitment drive in the coastal region toward Malindi and Magarini constituencies, where he also received defectors from Kenya Kwanza's PA affiliate party back to the ODM fold. Odinga, while in Kilifi, said Kenya Kwanza government has embarked on state capture of institutions, including parliament, where government-sponsored laws and policies is not debated, but merely rubber-stamped.
The legislature. Now you have a situation where the legislature is now already captive. The legislature imekuwa captive. Wabunge wanapitisha kila kitu ambayo inatoka kwa ikulu. Hakuna chochote ambayo inabadilishwa huko. There's no debate in the current parliament.
Odinga claims that in 1 year alone, MPs have passed laws that should have been rejected, citing the tax laws that include the housing levy.
You must condemn this state capture of the institutions of governance, the legislature, and the judiciary as an affront to democracy in our country. And it must stand condemned in the strongest terms possible.
The ODM party also questioned the deal brokered in State House between the executive and the judiciary.
Koome alitoka pale na pesa ya kujenga mahakama. Koome akatoka pale na pesa za kuajiri majaji. Na hawa majaji baba, zile duru zinatuarifu kwamba ni mpango wa Ruto kujaza majaji ambao wanaambatana na Kenya Kwanza ndani ya mahakama zetu.
Mimi nataka kuambia judiciary, hata kama mulifanya mkutano na kazungumza, you are an independent body, and because you are an independent body, sheria ni msumeno, yakata mbele yakata nyuma.
Serikali hii imemsambaratisha mwananchi wa chini. Kazi zinatoka, kazi wanapeana wenyewe kwa wenyewe.
Odinga, in his tour of Kilifi, also announced that the Orange Party is gearing up for a major shake-up in its leadership and has scheduled party elections for April this year.
Sasa tutaendelea mwezi huu wa Januari, Februari mpaka March. Ikifika Aprili tutafanya uchaguzi. na uchaguzi itaanza mashinani kule kwenye polling station.
Nyinyi mutembee na Wakenya wengine, ndio kwa sababu tunataka nyinyi msijazili kwa wingi katika chama chetu cha ODM.
Tutawaambia tupeni test na viti vyote vilioko katika pwani, tuwaoneshe kile ambacho kwamba kilikuwa ni chetu, tutakiregesha kiwe chetu. Kile mlotuibia tutahakikisha tukichukue wenyewe.
Kwa hivyo tutaanza kampeni kabambe na hawa MCAs ya kufanya registration ya ODM, na mimi sina shaka Kilifi County iko imara.
ODM caravan heads to Kwale County Thursday before winding up in tight at Taveta and Mombasa on Friday and Saturday.
Sorry, up to awali, this is what Raila Odinga was describing before they talked about ODM. The issue of state capture. Now, that informed this show because yesterday equally Rigiji alisema aje kwamba as much as walimit Martha Koome na the president wakaongea kuhusu corruption, what he would advise the president that equally ought to have made part of the discussion juicy when the president met Martha Koome should have been state capture. So it left me asking myself, na state capture inakuanga nini? All right, so that's what we are going to be looking at in the first hour of this show. What is state capture, and what really does state capture mean, and what does it really indicate when a country has been termed that it has state capture? What does it really mean? Now, ladies and gentlemen, state capture is an English word for starters. Tuanzie tu kwanza tu hapo. It's not rocket at a medical scientific. This is an English word, but it has a meaning, an interesting meaning. State capture refers to a situation in which powerful individuals, groups, or companies uses corrupt means to influence and manipulate policies and decisions and actions of a government for their own benefit. Of course, jina benefit cut out hapo mwisho. But let me repeat that. State capture refers to a situation in which powerful individuals, groups, or companies use corrupt means to influence and manipulate the policy, decision, and actions of their own for their own benefit. So something that someone does, guys, Jesus Christ, something that someone does to gain from it. You change laws to gain from it. You change, you trickle with some laws here and there so that you gain from it, so that you benefit from it, so that you hide in that law. You hide in it. You know, you can do something, but because you changed the law, you hide in it. But in actual sense, what you have done, you are not doing it for the good of everyone. You are doing it to hide in plain sight. You are doing it so as to benefit yourself. All right, so as to benefit yourself. Of course, this is the phenomena that typically involves the submission of state institutions like parliament, like legislature, that is the Senate and parliament, and of course now the judiciary and other organs, regulating other bodies and other public resources to serve the interest of a specific group rather than the broader public interest. That you create something, all right, that does not just benefit, it doesn't really benefit the public, but it benefits a certain group, your close friends, people who are allied to you, people who sing praises to you. Those are guys you want to protect. So you create laws and policies to benefit them. You change what is normally the normal thing that people know of, you know, taxes that are people are used to, but to change laws concerning taxes, laws concerning NHIF, laws concerning NSSF, laws concerning health, laws concerning education. Eventually, you touch almost all laws. Within 1 year, you have touched all laws. You have touched all institutions. You want to regulate all bodies. You want to almost control all bodies. You have met with the financial institutions. You have met with Safaricom. You have met with all institutions. KRA, name them. You have collapsed many things to have one central place you know. For what? For what? To increase interest for a specific group, not for the entire public. Not for the entire public. I want to play a clip equally that help me define more what is state capture. Listening to this, of course, it's a demo, but listen to what state capture is. I'll equally use this clip to help me explain further what state capture is before I even go to what it means and what it has really happened in how it has really happened in our country.
State capture. In various countries around the world, democracy is under threat. Corrupt politicians and their networks are capturing parts of the state and using them to make a profit and stay in power. Through state capture, the corrupt are controlling government decision-making for their private interests. This includes taking overpriced public contracts, monopolizing industries, and making sure that their corruption goes unpunished. And normal citizens suffer, as millions are stolen that should be spent on schools, hospitals, and infrastructure projects that would save lives and improve livelihoods. How do they get away with it? They pass laws that legalize state capture. It becomes harder to hold the corrupt to account and easier for a few interests to monopolize industries and public resources. Many also undermine prosecutors and courts, stopping them from punishing corruption. This means that, for example, a politician in the Western Balkans accused of high-level corruption can avoid imprisonment, get a top role in government, and profit from a rigged system. There is state capture in the Western Balkans, but it is not limited to one region. We see this happening around the world. This must and can stop. With strong, independent institutions, robust laws, and integrity in politics, state capture can be stopped. As more people understand state capture, more can unite against it. In power. Through state capture, the corrupt are controlling government decision-making for their...
All right, I'll be going bit by bit in that clip. That because of state capture, the corrupt one, they find their way in government in one way or another. They find their way. They really work hard to find their way in government. So what does state capture means? In that is you find a way first to gain to power. Then when you get to power, what do? You muzzle some institutions that would fight you. So unahakikisha you don't have a very strong DPP. You don't have a very strong DCI. You don't have a very strong police force. You don't have a very strong judiciary. You don't have a very strong parliament. In any case, you weaken the institutions. That there is no institution that can fight you. You know, you bring in Kotu to your pocket. You make sure no institution, any institution that can rise to oppose you, you make sure you are in in good terms with it. You know, you come out as a darling of many. You know, you come out as a darling of the judiciary. What do? You create a fund for it. You even increase the fund. You increase the judges. You appoint them. You appoint them. The other thing that you do, you make sure if anyone acts against you, if any of the judges acts against you, what do? Cast aspersions. Hey, declare that these guys are corrupt. Bring in what do you call it? Create a narrative. That's the word. Create a narrative of how bad these institutions are, of how bad these judges are. And when everyone is talking about these judges being corrupt or not being corrupt, call in the Chief Justice. Discuss something almost totally irrelevant from what you are raising, and then create a working team. Give it 30 days to talk about what? Corruption. And so by the end of the day, you create a way. You create, first you create a wave. All right. First you create a wave. After creating that wave, you make sure you are the one remaining standing. Unabaki wewe ndio una stand tall. But by the end of the day, as you're standing tall, what have you done? You have crippled these institutions. These institutions won't work. Even when they work, people will still say, these judges are corrupt. They are stopping this because they are in fight with the government. Wamepitisha hii kwa sababu president aliwaingililia. So eventually you create doubt in judiciary. You create no confidence in parliament, that no bill is ever debated. What Raila Odinga is trying to say, no bill is ever debated. You remember those days how bills would be debated, how bills would be rejected. I don't foresee a bill being rejected in this regime. But hey, it's just me. So you find that an institution like parliament no longer works. People no longer believe in their parliamentarians. This is the legislative arm of government. This is not another part of the executive. We don't need to have the legislature be the spokesperson of the government. Yesterday we were able to say that you find a deputy speaker defend government and even say, we as government, we as government, we went on a campaign, we went to campaign about ABCD. These are the policies we need to implement. And that's the deputy speaker. You have the speaker who says some of these bills will pass. Will pass with you're preempting a debate. You are perceiving what will happen in a debate as a speaker. You are the one saying, hapana, hizi bills zitapita na zikipita really? So parliament is no longer independent. Things come from the executive, they pass unopposed, and the president is always ready to implement them, always very ready to sign them into law. All right. Think of anything that was in the previous regime or even in the other one before it. No institution has remained the way it was. No law, no funds have remained the way they were. From NHIF to NSSF to HELP, nothing has remained the way it was. Parliament, the way it was, it is no longer how it is now. The judiciary, the way we know it, it's no longer it's not what it used to be. So already the institutions are not working. This is what, ladies and gentlemen, is described as state capture, where you make sure everything works for your favor. That people who are close to you, their cases collapse, Kimwarel inazama tu hivyo, no question asked. All right, vitu kama kesi za Aisha Jumwa zina collapse, no question asked. Kesi kama ya DP ina collapse, no question asked. But when housing levy inakataliwa tu kidogo tu hivi, our judges are corrupt. When cases zina collapse kwa sababu DPP amekataa kuprosecute, no, our judges are good. Our courts are doing something wonderful. All right. When it goes your way, we praise. We almost sing hallelujah. But when it fails to go your way, you castigate these institutions. You cripple them. You make sure they don't work. You bastardize everyone in it. You create a blanket statement of, the institution is not working. These guys are corrupt. We have corrupt officials. We have corrupt judiciary. That is what you do. You create a form of disagreement so that eventually you have a sitting. And in that sitting, you make sure you are the center of it. All right? You even call it in a place that you control. Your area of control. You don't go to them, they come to you. You control the narrative, and eventually you give them some small goodies so that everything goes your way, and voila, cases begin to collapse. All right, cases that were meant to proceed until maybe Mwananchi feels there is justice that has been served, those cases continue. And ladies and gentlemen, if that's not state capture, what is? What is? Listen to this description slowly. I'll play this severally until we get what is state capture. Before I bring other definitions according to Rigiji, according to other MPs who initially were complaining about state capture. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen.
What is state capture? In various countries around the world, democracy is under threat. Corrupt politicians and their networks are capturing parts of the state and using them to make a profit and stay in power. Through state capture, the corrupt are controlling government decision-making for their private interests. This includes taking overpriced public contracts, monopolizing industries, and making sure that their corruption goes unpunished. And normal citizens suffer, as millions are stolen that should be spent on schools, hospitals, and infrastructure projects that would save lives and improve livelihoods. How do they get away with it? They pass laws that legalize state capture. It becomes harder to hold the corrupt to account and easier for a few interests to monopolize industries and public resources. Many also undermine prosecutors and courts, stopping them from punishing corruption. This means
Pause hapo kwanza. What do they do first? If you have had, first they create laws that it's almost difficult to catch them. Like it's not possible to catch, ni ngumu kuwashika kwa sababu they are in the law, they know where the loophole is, so they hide behind it. They hide behind it. They control the prosecutor. They control anyone who would create a discord, all right? They control them. They control the judges. So a case, even when it's justified on merits, a case is controlled, all right? So, ladies and gentlemen, what happens? A judge cannot freely give a ruling based on evidence, based on the rule of law, but based on an influential form of decision. Someone has influenced this decision, all right? So corruption cases go unpunished. And those who we go charge are those who are our opponents. None of our friends make it to court. The match they are given is almost a slap on the wrist. But our enemies, those we perceive are anti-us, we make sure, hey, tunawafinya vibaya sana. Tunawafinya vibaya. We make it impossible for them to seek justice anywhere. Because hata wakienda kotini huko, huyo jaji ni beshte yetu. Wakienda kotini huko, huyo prosecutor ana sing my tune. Why? The president is the one who has appointing authorities in most of these offices. What are the things that, for example, our president did when he came to power? Fired Akina Kinoti. They were told these guys are so bad. Ni wabaya. State capture. They were killing people and all. Bodies were being dumped everywhere. These guys were very bad. They were, I don't want to use that word, but they were very bad. So what we do, kwanza, we fire them. We chase them. So Kinoti and Mtembai were shown the door. All right. What do? The previous government had some tussle with the judiciary. So first create a rosy picture. All right. Release the funds to them. Release the funds to the police. All right. Release it. Don't hold it. Release it. And then somehow nip it at the top. It cannot grow beyond your control. Many of us were hopeful that when this regime came to power, that probably we would see a court that works independently, truly independently, a police that works truly independently. But lo and behold, that wasn't to be. When we had protest, even when it was only celebrating a birthday, for example, you tear gas a birthday cake. Simply because you have controlled institutions that are key. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this today might be interesting or not, but listen to what state capture is. Get it almost word by word as I bring in the other aspect of what is state capture.
What is state capture? In various countries around the world, democracy is under threat. Corrupt politicians and their networks are capturing parts of the state and using them to make a profit and stay in power. Through state capture, the corrupt are controlling government decision-making for their private interests. This includes taking overpriced public contracts, monopolizing industries, and making sure that their corruption goes unpunished. And normal citizens suffer as millions are stolen that should be spent on schools, hospitals, and infrastructure projects that would save lives and improve livelihoods. How do they get away with it? They pass laws that legalize state capture. It becomes harder to hold the corrupt to account and easier for a few interests to monopolize industries and public resources. Many also undermine prosecutors and courts, stopping them from punishing corruption. This means that, for example, a politician in the Western Balkans accused of high-level corruption can avoid imprisonment, get a top role in government, and profit from a rigged system. There is state capture in the Western Balkans, but it is not limited to one region. We see this happening around the world. This must and can stop. With strong, independent institutions, robust laws, and integrity in politics, state capture can be stopped. As more people understand state capture, more can unite against it. Find out more at transparency.org.
All right. Of course, that clip was from them. But ladies and gentlemen, how can we stop state capture? Of course, one of the things that must happen as a matter of urgency is our institutions must be allowed to work. We need to have our parliament, as it were. Our parliament, the legislative arm of government, needs to be allowed to be as so. Of course, Pierre, I blame ourselves. We at times elect some MPs who are, I don't know which word to use, but really they fail to represent us as, honorable members of parliament. You know, how they behave. At times, there is nothing honorable about them. At times, there is nothing honorable about them. I like and I miss the days where an MP would stood their ground and say, this for the sake of my community, for the sake of my constituency, for the sake of the people who brought me here, because it's never the government that brings you to parliament. It is us, Wanjiko, it's us, Mwananchi, it's Mora who votes for you. It's Mora who you came to and campaigned. They listened to you and maybe probably liked you. And maybe they felt you are the change, you are the guy to go represent them fairly in parliament. So when you go there, you don't go there and begin talking like, hey, party position, hey, government position. Really? Where was the government when you were coming to us? Why didn't the government vote for you? Why didn't the party give you the seat and give you that ticket directly sending you to parliament? You had to come to us. You had to tell us what you will do. You had to speak about our constituencies, speak of the roads, speak of the hospitals, speak of the schools, speak of policies that would have changed our constituencies. But what do? When you go there, you think of only you, your tummies, your wives, your family, and forget the many families that elected you in. And that's why when laws are brought in, the first thing you think about is never Mwananchi, is never Mkenya. And hence, laws come, laws are passed, and they are never properly scrutinized, never properly thought of, never properly based and structured on the rule of law. As much as you are the law-making organ, do you make laws from you to us, or from someone to you, then to us? Do you make it to make someone feel good? I'm the best. I'm the most knowledgeable. I'm the, I have it all. I have the mind that can capture everything. I don't even need to be advised. I'm the smartest of the smart. I'm almost the lords of everything. All right. So you don't question anything from them. So you pass laws. Some laws are punitive in nature. Some laws hurt Mwananchi. The Mwananchi you came to and asked for their votes. That is the person that some of your laws come to really hurt. I know I might be sounding like a broken record, but it's true. Some of these laws, when you pass them without even reading, really, why did we even send you to parliament? You pass something you haven't read, have no clue the impact, the ramification of what you are signing, what you are voting yes for, simply because it's government position, simply because it's party position. But then the person who suffers most is Mwananchi. really, if you had any substance between your ears, I believe you ought to have read, you ought to have internalized what some laws would mean. Not just blanket passing, as much as some describe our parliament and equally sometimes our Senate as at times a conveyor belt of anything the executive wants. The executive can be wrong. It can be wrong. It can be wrong. It can make policies. It can look for things that only benefit a few, but it has been crafted to seem as though it will benefit the general public. So you, Mwananchi, you, Raya, when you go to vote next time, I think beyond parties, because these parties, some of these parties, as we have come to learn, they are just a means to an end. They have no interest. They stand for no ideology. They stand for nothing that would help you. Look at the person who comes to you. Look and interrogate them, scrutinize them. Look at how they have behaved in parliament. Did they have you at heart? When they come and rally and marshal their strength, and give you to sugars, 200 a kilo of sugar and all, do they have you at heart? When it comes to matters that affect you, do they really have you at heart? That is what we are looking at. Now, one time, Rigiji, during the debate, him and Martha Karua, he was put to task to explain what is state capture. Then, to them, state capture is kuteswa na serikali, kwa Friday, kuachiliwa, kutolewa kwa committees. To them, it was state capture. This is what he said.
Compete with citizens for scarce resources, where the people in power use their position to advantage themselves to get business unfairly, where people in power allocate resources to projects where they have an interest. I have an example. In the year 20, I want to tell you what is state capture and conflict of interest. This is Gazette Notice Legal number 1112, dated 26th June 2019. In the exercise of powers conferred by Section 106 of the Stamp Duty Act, the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury and Planning, on the recommendation of the Cabinet Secretary for Lands and Physical Planning, directs that the instruments executed in respect of the transactions relating to the merger of NIC, PLC, and Commercial Bank of Africa shall be exempt from the provisions of the Act. By a single signature, these two companies owned by the first family were exempted from paying 350 million. These are rich banks who have made money from domestic borrowing. They have lent money to government. They are in Fuliza. The owners are the richest people in Kenya. They were exempted from paying 350 million. Money that can put up 35 level 3 hospitals in Kenya. That is conflict of interest and state capture. That is chronic corruption. It's worse than the corruption associated with public procurement. And that is what we must deal with. Okay. We must deal with state capture. We must deal with conflict of interest. There is a railway line between Nairobi and Nyanyuki that was put up at a cost of 3.8 billion. That railway line serves one company that supplies fuel to Nyanyuki.
All right, Honorable Gachagua, thank you very much for this. Unfortunately, I cannot authenticate this
document. You asked me what is state capture.
I'm giving you time, but I cannot authenticate the document that you just read right now. So I've seen in your manifesto that you would put a commission to investigate these tribes. Would you go after the first family?
We will not go after anybody. We'll go after all those who are in state capture and conflict of interest.
Who are they?
But what are you saying?
That will come out in the commission. I'm saying there will be a commission because the real corruption that we need to deal with, not what Honorable Mother is talking about, is state capture and conflict of interest, where the people in power have used their offices to usurp public resources to their advantage and to the disadvantage of the rest of Kenyans. You are aware that the milk industry has been monopolized by state capture and conflict of interest, where the owners of that monopoly decide how much to buy from the farmers and how much to sell to the consumers.
So, Honorable,
and extort the people of Kenya.
Clarity for the Kenyans who are watching. Yeah. At the center of government is President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes.
Are you going to go after President Uhuru Kenyatta finishes his term?
I have said we are not talking about individuals. We'll deal with state capture and conflict of interest. Anybody who is involved in state capture and conflict of interest will be held to account.
The first family, sir. So grab the bull by its horns. Don't perhaps cut around the issue. You are talking about the first family. So in essence, you are saying you will go after them. Isn't that true?
I am saying this is state capture. I've given you an example. You will feel for yourself what needs to happen.
All right.
And I am saying that is what we need to deal with. You know, state capture. And that is why the president will say he is lenient. He cannot deal with state capture. He cannot deal with conflicts of interest.
Okay.
He can't.
Thank you very much.
Now, that was none other than the DP when he was called to speak, of course, during the debate. And of course, this was captured the other day, I think a week ago, in the Star. And the Star talks about that Kenyatta and a host of his senior state officials will be key witnesses on what? State capture. Uhuru Matiang'i to be quizzed on state capture. Of course, in there you have General Ogola, Chief of Defense, you have Fred Matiang'i, and you have the former president. So this, of course, is what Ishongwa was speaking about the other day when he was describing what state capture was and why they need to go about looking for those who, to them, then they perceived to have created a state of state capture in our country. But when you look at this, someone yesterday said that when that commission will be constituted, they should equally look at this regime, because, ladies and gentlemen, what really is state capture? As you have heard, state capture means more than what the DP, who was then the Mathira MP, was describing in that footage. State capture goes beyond, all right? And when Raila Odinga is saying that we are now having a state capture, probably he could be right. I'm not saying he's right. Probably he could be right, because here is a situation where you make sure no institution can fight you. No institution can equally almost oppose you. You come with bills, you come with laws, you draft laws that can be described as punitive. They have no mwananchi centered in them, and you run away with it, or rather you no one can question you, no court can grill you, no one can oppose you. You're almost living above the law. No one can take you to court, and even when they take you to court, you make sure you challenge them. So according to the Star, the people to be quizzed is Uhuru Kenyatta, Matiang'i, and of course other senior key officials who served in his regime. This is what Ishungwa was trying to explain, yeah, that a commission will be formed, and it will be tasked with looking at state capture. Of course, what they were saying that people were doing things with vested interest. All right, people would create and formulate laws because they favored them. All right, mtu ana create, for example, a way yenye atakuwa exempted from paying some tax. Okay, and that was what they called state capture. But when you look at this scenario at the moment, it's not different from what they were accusing the former regime. All right, they are creating laws that mwananchi is complaining about. Mwananchi has taken this government to court kwa sababu ya housing levy. Mwananchi has taken this government to court kwa sababu ya the financial bill. Mwananchi has taken this government to court kwa sababu ya so many other laws that have been passed, and mwananchi feels some of these laws are punitive. But hey, what do? The first thing, as you have heard, you cripple the prosecuting organ. You cripple the courts. You make sure the courts have no power. They have no capacity to deal with you. You create laws that you hide deep within them. You create a way that you hide in plain sight. You hide. All right, in plain sight you hide. And yesterday I had none other than Rigiji talk about state capture. He said that the president was doing a good job by meeting Martha Koome, and equally was saying that if it was up to him, if it was up to him, he would have challenged the president not just to speak about corruption, but equally to speak about state capture. He spoke eloquently, he spoke firmly about other things, but he said that, you know what, Prezo, kama ningeulizwa, kama ingekuwa ni mimi ninaulizwa kenye mungediscuss mkiwa na Martha Koome, mungediscuss kuhusu state capture. Mungediscuss kuhusu state capture. That was just jana. It's not kitambo. Jana, yesterday. They are still talking about state capture, ladies and gentlemen. They're still talking about it. So that's what I'm about to play, and for you, even as I take a breather, and equally as I wait for my panelists. I think anachelewa somewhere. I had someone exclusively invited to help me discuss this issue on state capture. All right, so listen in to what Rigiji had to say. Now, here is Rigiji talking about state capture. All right, here we go.
Seme asante. Si ndio? Mimi rais nimesikia vile Kimani Ichung'wah amesema, mheshimiwa, na mimi nakubaliana naye 100%. Your Excellency, tunashukuru wewe kwa kufanya mkutano na Chief Justice kuongea mambo ya ufisadi Kenya. Na tunashangaa wale wanajifanya ndio advocates ya kupigana na ufisadi. They have a problem when you meet the judiciary to discuss corruption. Na hawa siku walitaka kukutana na wewe, ulikutana na hawa waongee mambo yao. Kwa nini wako na shida ukikutana na Chief Justice kuongea mambo ya ufisadi, na siku walitaka wewe ulikutana na hawa? Wewe ni rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Watu ya Judiciary wako chini yako. Huyo mzee wa kitendawili ako chini yako. Wahubiri wako chini yako. Wale waganga wako chini yako. Wale watu wezi wako chini yako. Wewe ni rais ya kila mtu. Sasa kila mtu rais akiomba kukutana na wewe, wewe fungua milango. Hawa raia ya kawaida, rais wafungulie mlango. Talk to everybody because you are the father of our nation. And what you have done is the right thing. Na rais, mimi nakubaliana na Kimani Ichung'wah. Hata kama ulikutana na Chief Justice, mukaongea mambo ya corruption, had you sought my opinion, ningekuuliza tu kwa heshima kwa hiyo topic, pia mungeweka state capture mjadiliane juu yake, because state capture is more corrosive than even corruption. Kwa hivyo pale mbele, I would like to request Your Excellency, huyo mama Chief Justice akuje pia another 2-3-4 hours, state capture muweke pale, muongee juu yake, pia mpange mambo yake, because it's even more corrosive than corruption. Na kwa hivyo rais, sisi tunakuunga mkono. Na mimi nataka niseme nikiwa hapa, hii region yetu inaitwa Mount Kenya, Your Excellency, tulikuunga mkono 100%. Kweli ama uongo? Kwenda kakuligererio. And we are united as a region behind our president. And that is the way it shall be. Sisi unajua rais, watu ya hapa ni watu ya ukweli. When we like something, we like. When we don't like, we say we don't like. When we agree on the way forward, we do what we have done. Sisi tulikuahidi tutakuunga mkono in your entire term ya 10 years as president of Kenya. But we want to support you united as a region. Kwa sababu hivi ndivyo sisi tunapiganga kura zetu. Na mimi nataka niseme nikiwa hapa Gilgil, I want us to be very, very careful, because we want a united people so that we can have a united country. Hatutaki mtu yeyote ambaye anaweza kugawanya watu kwa misingi ya kikaunti. When President Uhuru Kenyatta was having negative politics akiwa pale Mululu, akiwa mazishi ya mama ya Musalia Mudavadi. Alikuwa ameleta siasa ya kugawanya Wakenya, ya kusema ya kwamba huwezi chagua kabila mbili all the time, na hiyo siasa Wakenya wakakataa, wakakuchagua kama rais. On the same page, tunataka kusema katika hii region yetu ya Mount Kenya, we don't want anybody kujaribu kugawanya watu wetu along county lines. Hata hii ni watu ya Murang'a, hii ni watu ya Nyeri, hii ni watu ya Kiambu. That is retrogressive politics which we don't want in this area. Kani mkwenda tukayanio? Nimkwenda tukayanio? Sisi rais kama jamii.
All right, I'll be talking about that in a short while, but this equally your story. Why was he saying Moranga, Nyandaro? I'll be talking about that in a short while. But I want to go back to what he has just said concerning what equally Martha Koome and the president ought to equally have discussed, the issue of state capture. And according to Rigiji, he says one of the most dangerous, if not most riskiest thing vis-a-vis corruption is state capture. And I agree with him, because state capture, I think, tops it all. Because with state capture, you run away with even that corruption. So it's the mother of all. So I agree with him. But again, I would equally ask them to reflect themselves on the mirror. To reflect themselves on the mirror. What they're perpetuating, what they're saying about others. Is it what they're doing themselves? What they say that Uhuru Kenyatta did to them. Is it not what they're doing to others now? If this commission was to be really fair, I hope it will equally stretch its arms and equally look into this regime concerning state capture. Because state capture, as we have seen, ladies and gentlemen, you make sure that none of the institutions work. None of these institutions would work. We remember back in those days, court was a very strong institution. The labor union was a very strong institution. They would call their members on strike, and that would happen. Today, boldly asking, can Atwoli ask for demonstrations? Can he ask for strikes? Can he ask for boycotts? Can he? Can Atwoli? I wish I could ask him directly. Can he? And if he can, does he believe he would get the support, the humongous support he used to get from Kenyans before? All right. Our parliament, can they debate on matter without looking at the executive? Because what a part of development from the executive, pseudo development from the executive, and debate on matters brought before it soberly and coerced. Can parliament do that? Can we have robust conversation in parliament? Can the august house stand tall and be the house of representatives that Kenyans elected? Will we ever be proud of our parliamentarians? Ever again? Will we? Really? Will we ever have a parliament that we say, truly, this one is the true face of Kenya? Not the true face of parties, not the true face of a certain section of or a region, the face of Kenya, where Kenyan matters are discussed. We did not elect voting machines just to go say yes and no in parliament, to skype parliament sittings and do other things, because parliament is no longer lucrative for them. To them, parliament is almost, what do I say? It's an inconvenience to them. Sitting in the plenary and listening to debates and conversation, it's a waste of time to some of them. Hence, some bills are passed. The quorum at times inakuwa kidogo sana, almost negligible. All right? But the MP is somewhere. Some are either may travel outside the country, ameenda kijijini, Not that they're doing something constructive at times. Some are not even doing anything, because even in their constituencies where they have been elected, the constituents there are saying, we have never seen our MPs since we voted for them. And equally, Parliament becomes an appendage of the executive, that whatever the executive wants, the executive gets, unaltered, unchanged. Not even a comma is removed, where you have the likes of Senator Cherargei saying that what has come, for example, what he said about the financial bill, venye ilikuja, without even appending anything on it, it will go as it is. Really? Really? In any case, then we ought just to have the executive, all these other institutions, so that we save money, because we are losing money on institutions that don't benefit Kenyans. We should just all amalgamate all these institutions and call it the executive. All right. And then maybe in that executive we can delegate some duties. Wewe kuwa kwa speaker wa Senate, kazi yako tu ni kusema sisi kama executive, this is what we are doing. Wewe kama judge so and so, kuwa pia kwa court, useme sisi kama executive, this is our ruling. Because hence, what will be the essence of separation of powers? Really? All right. I know that issue of state capture, but equally, to summarize on what state capture really means, it has several characteristics. One, you make sure that you influence over decision making. Okay, that state capture involves exerting influence over key decision makers, like the parliament, like the Senate. You make sure you capture those key decision makers. You capture them. They cannot make anything that is anti you. All right. So you make sure that you capture, you exert influence over key decision makers within government. Of course, you make sure you tap politicians. If you didn't have a majority, you make sure you have a super majority. Those who are not from your side, you make sure they come to you, so that you if you only had 15, you poach from your opponent, so that you have a super majority. All right. So you poach politicians. You make sure that they are on your side. You make sure that they are on your side. Equally, you make sure that all bureaucrats and regulatory authorities are on your side. KRA works for you. Like you walk into stock exchange, bring in some changes kidogo kidogo, ndio Kenya Shilling is trading at I'm coming to Kenya Shilling in a few. You make sure that corruption and bribery is the thing and the order of the day. That those seeking to capture the state often make and engage in corrupt practices such as bribery, embezzlement, and other illicit activities. And they make sure they control any institution that may be tasked in looking into such details. And when anyone, including the lady that controls budget, Lady Nancy Okongo, akijaribu kukuja tu even an expose on how the government can budget for corruption, you make sure her weekend is ruined, anashikwa anywhere, anakimbishwa hapa kule, that she cannot speak about corruption. Alright, kukionekana kadalili ka corruption kidogo, ili to quench the masses wasi react, unafuta watu wawili, but you leave the matter unresolved. Something happens in Kemsa, some mosquito nets and all, and a nice tender or a bad tender was about to happen. You fire a few, you even fire someone who is not directly involved, and then you leave the others. And what equally do, you transfer the person who was in that docket. You're fighting corruption. All right. And then, as if that is not enough, sukari ambayo haikuwa ikuje kwa public inapotea. What you do? Unashika watu wawili watatu, but the sugar is not found. Sukari haipatikani. Tunaongelea kuhusu mafuta. Inakuja na deal moja mbaya sana. You praise it how it's so good, and you come out and say how brilliant your mind is and how you came with an awesome idea about G2G. All right? Na kumbe G2G, it had all the scandals mad in it. Even you have been taken to court kwa sababu ya hiyo story ya G2G. Uganda wanataka hata kujiondokea because wanasema nyinyi ni brokers wabaya, wadau. Ile brokerage mnataka kufanya, hatuwezani. State capture, wadau, state capture. And then to even make it interesting, you change bills and introduce levies that only you understand. Mwananchi hajui. Akiulizwa, have you created like, we know if I need to follow up about my NHIF, I know where to go. If I need to follow up about my NSSF, I know where to go. But if I need to follow up about my housing levy, where do I go? Do we have an office? Do we have an organ that deals with it? Where nitatoa wapi hinga anieleze kuhusu housing and where my contribution will go to? So you are yet to formulate the policies, the laws, the structures of a certain levy, but you're quick to implement it and only try to look at it when it has been stopped by the courts. You tell people, oh, hapana, you know, wale ambao wanajaribu kusimamisha hii hawataki maendeleo, hawataki Wakenya waandikwe kazi, hawataki manyumba yajengwe, hawataki slums ziishe. You bring a lot of narratives, but really, have you done the right thing? Those institutions, have you created them? Are they in play? Before you even come and say, we are taking you to court prematurely and all, are those institutions covered? I am not sure. I am not sure. All right? I am not sure. I don't think some of these institutions are ready. The housing levy is a good levy, probably. But do we have structures for it? Do we have laws for it? How will they determine that truly you are Mama Mboga? And how will they safeguard anyone from exploiting that noble thing? For me, I believe the houses, it's a good thing, but eventually, will we not have scams coming out of it? I remember when we began history of housing levy, one of the things that was allowed was that at first it was to be a contribution. Now, we need to understand what changed from it being a contribution to it being now a tax, all right? And what was the difference between the two? That now that this tax and the contribution are not there, or rather have changed, how does Mwananchi still remain to benefit without being jeopardized in any way? Remember, the employer equally is contributing, just like NHIF. The employer contributes. Fantastic. When you go to the hospital, as much as at times it really doesn't come out kabisa that NHIF unafaidika nayo at times, but at least my contribution and that from my employer in any benefit when I go to the hospital. Housing levy, why is it mad with a lot of dark cloud in it? And that is where Mwananchi, and that's where Mwananchi has gone to court, and that's why Mwananchi needs clarity. It's up to you to explain. You are the lawmaking organ. You are the ones implementing this. It's up to you to convince. It's not up to the courts. It's up to you. Now we're having a debate on SHIF. All right. What was wrong with NHIF? Okay, you came and said, apana, what kwa wanatumia NHIF kujibenefit. Hospitali zilikuwa zinafanya more surgeries than KNH and any other institution combined. Okay, all that. But that just means it was mismanaged. That just means there was corruption in it. That just means there were people who had learned the ropes. They knew how to rob the government or these institutions. So if someone can know how well to rob NHIF until you have to change it to SHIF, e-housing levy, how safe is it? Naina, most of the things that it's supposed to have. Those are the questions Kenyans are asking. Maybe me. I don't want to act as though I talk about everyone. All right? Because we know very well it pains us when a shilling is deducted from our hard-earned money, from our sweat during your taxations and all these deductions. It pains that you ought to earn 20,000, but kamshahara kana kukujia karibu 16k thereabout. 4k imemezwa hivyo. You know, imelipa bit. Of course, the government must do that. But equally, we ought to see that money working in retrospect to benefit us. All right? Okay. So that was state capture, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to go to the next thing. But before I do that, allow me to play this one more time. All right? Here we
various countries around the world, democracy is under threat. Corrupt politicians and their networks are capturing parts of the state and using them to make a profit and stay in power. Through state capture, the corrupt are controlling government decision-making for their private interests. This includes taking overpriced public contracts, monopolizing industries, and making sure that their corruption goes unpunished. And normal citizens suffer, as millions are stolen that should be spent on schools, hospitals, and infrastructure projects that would save lives and improve livelihoods. How do they get away with it? They pass laws that legalize state capture. It becomes harder to hold the corrupt to account and easier for a few interests to monopolize industries and public resources. Many also undermine prosecutors and courts, stopping them from punishing corruption. This means that, for example, a politician in the Western Balkans accused of high-level corruption can avoid imprisonment, get a top role in government, and profit from a rigged system. There is state capture in the Western Balkans, but it is not limited to one region. We see this happening around the world. This must and can stop. With strong, independent institutions, robust laws, and integrity in politics, state capture can be stopped. As more people understand state capture, more can unite against it.
All right.
Then TV.
All right, let's all thank an ODM leader. Raila Odinga now says the executive has held parliament captive and rendered parliamentary debates on key legislation as a mere formality. Speaking in Kilifi County, Odinga accused President William Ruto of muzzling parliament and using it to have government policies rubber-stamped with ease and without scrutiny. And as Stephen Leto reports, Odinga says the state capture has extended to the judiciary.
Odinga was in the third day of ODM party membership recruitment drive in the coastal region toward Malindi and Magarini constituencies, where he also received defectors from Kenya Kwanza's PA affiliate party back to the ODM fold. Odinga, while in Kilifi, said Kenya Kwanza government has embarked on state capture of institutions, including parliament, where government-sponsored laws and policies is not debated, but merely rubber-stamped.
The legislature. Now you have a situation where the legislature is now already captive. The legislature imekuwa captive. Wabunge wanapitisha kila kitu ambayo inatoka kwa ikulu. Hakuna chochote ambayo inabadilishwa huko. There's no debate in the current parliament.
Odinga claims that in 1 year alone, MPs have passed laws that should have been rejected, citing the tax laws that include the housing levy.
You must condemn this state capture of the institutions of governance, the legislature, and the judiciary as an affront to democracy in our country. and it must stand condemned in the strongest terms possible.
The ODM party also questioned the deal brokered in State House between the executive and the judiciary.
Koome alitoka pale na pesa ya kujenga mahakama. Koome akatoka pale na pesa za kuajiri majaji. Na hawa majaji baba, zile duru zinatuarifu kwamba ni mpango wa Ruto kujaza majaji ambao wanaambatana na Kenya Kwanza ndani ya mahakama zetu.
Mimi nataka kuambia Judiciary, hata kama mulifanya mkutano na mukazungumza, you are an independent body, and because you are an independent body, sheria ni msumeno, yakata mbele, yakata nyuma.
Serikali hii imemsambaratisha mwananchi wa chini. Kazi zinatoka, kazi wanapeana wenyewe kwa wenyewe.
Odinga in his tour of Kilifi also announced that the Orange Party is gearing up for a major shake-up in its leadership and has scheduled party elections for April this year.
Sasa tutaendelea mwezi huu wa Januari, Februari mpaka March. Ikifika Aprili tutafanya uchaguzi. Na uchaguzi itaanza mashinani kule kwenye polling station.
Nyinyi mutembee na Wakenya wengine. Ndio kwa sababu tunataka nyinyi msijazili kwa wingi katika chama chetu cha ODM.
Tutawaambia tupeni test na viti vyote vilioko katika pwani, tuwaoneshe kile ambacho kwamba kilikuwa ni chetu, tutakiregesha kiwe chetu, kile mlotuibia tutahakikisha tukichukue wenyewe.
Kwa hivyo tutaanza kampeni kabambe na hawa MCAs ya kufanya registration ya ODM. Na mimi sina shaka Kilifi County iko imara.
ODM caravan heads to Kwale County Thursday before winding up in Taita Taveta and Mombasa on Friday.
All right. So that is state capture. Maybe I'll look at it mbele kidogo. But where there's equally other news, all right? Kidogo wacha tutoke sasa kwa state capture, but allow me equally to celebrate wale ambao wanatuma comment. Naona mko wengi tu sana. Dr. Rika, asante sana, I see you, asante kwa ujumbe wako. Good year, I see you, asante sana. Penya Gaka, I see you, asante. Zes Mfinyi, I see you, and many participating in this via comment section. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now let's come to something else. Wadau, kuna ka impeachment kana load. Kuna ka impeachment kana load for one governor who is very close to me because she is my governor. She is my governor. Yeah, I said she is my governor, and ako karibu kufanywa ile kitu. Yes, my governor is in trouble. Who am I talking about? I'll be letting you know in just a while, but Alex is now in. I was waiting for him and someone else who ameniambia ameshikwa kwa traffic, but I'll be coming to Alex just now. But before I even come out from state capture's topic, let me first go to the next topic, then we'll have Alex help me discuss the two. Equally, you can equally join me. Paul, at times squeezing najikuta siwakaribishi sana, lakini karibu sana kwa studio. Kuingia kwa studio si ngumu, unatumia link ambayo unakutumia hapo kwa comment section. Hiyo link ukitumia inakutuma hapa kwa show directly. Unafanya vipi? Una-click, yes, inakutuma moja kwa moja hadi StreamYard. Ukifika StreamYard, asha mic, asha camera, andika jina, alafu unajikuta umeingia kwa show. All right, unaingia tu mbashara hapa kwa show. All right, so Alex is in and someone else is coming. Yeah, you really need to stick around to see who I have invited. Nakwambia, okay? But before he comes, I'll continue with Alex, all right? And many of you will appreciate what we have in store for you. But a governor close to me is about to be impeached. Why? Kwa sababu ya hospitali. There's a hospital, I'm sure Alex knows about it, known as a war memorial. It's one of the oldest hospitals in Nakuru, all right? And Governor wa Nakuru amejihusisha na hiyo hospitali, and for quite some time now, it has been a bone of contention. And our senator, all right, our senator, Madam Keroche, amefanya ile kitu. Ametoa press statement leo akasema, you know what, I think MCAs wafanye ile kitu. I think jana played your clip. Yeah, jinsi county kanjos were trying to toa mselkwa kwa dialysis. So because of that and many more, listen to this statement even as I take a breather kidogo and have Bwana Alex come in, and we discuss about state capture and equally the pending and loading impeachment of one Susan Keheka. Wow, Susan Keheka. She is my governor. Yeah, she is my governor. You know, I've never really talked about who is my governor. My governor is Susan Keheka. And Susan Keheka ako karibu kufanywa ile kitu, wadau. Ako karibu kufanywa ile kitu, na hii kwanza iongozwi na any other person, inaongozwa na our senator. Senator wetu ndio anafanya ile kitu. And our senator is equally a lady, and ndio anafanya ile kitu. Listen to this speech even as we go on with the show. All right? Okay. So here we go.
If the state genuinely wanted to have the land in front of the state house for the purposes of president landing, they should have done so through the Ministry of Lands, but not through the government of Nakuru. So the big question is, why would the governor be seeking to have the title deed of that land that is a landing bay for the president of next to the state house of the Nakuru? And this land, if you remember, the first president landed there when the land was still owned by the War Memorial Hospital. The second president, Moi, did the same, Kibaki, the Kenyatta. I'm very sure even Ruto, His Excellency, the beloved president, would not want such a disruption just because that we are looking for a land for his purposes of landing. Based on the above grounds and reasons, these are enough for impeachment, and therefore I ask the MCAs to do their job. The shocking news about the woman.
Right, and therefore we ask your clip ndaicheza baadaye, lakini we wanataka kufanya Susan Keheka ile kitu na ni mapema ni but Bwana Alex, hii Kenya aishi mambo. Unasikia mtu anasema aje ya kwamba wanataka watoe hospitali watengenezee president, because I know you know where War Memorial is. It's adjacent to State House Nakuru na War Memorial. They share actually fence yao ni kama wameganisha, tuna kabara kalami kazuri kamepita hapo katikati. So that hospital has been one contentious issue. The hospital in question, I know, Alex, you know, I'm sure you know War Memorial, Alex.
Yeah, War Memorial is where my second daughter was born.
Oh, fantastic! So it's, you know, where it's so prime. It's situated just next to the
salon. Yeah, my wife lied to me, and the water had fallen, and she took me to a salon. And when she got to the salon, and I remember the lady told me that your wife is getting a baby right now. And we went to War Memorial. So War Memorial is where my second daughter was born in. I know it very well.
Okay.
And it saved my daughter.
You know how. So its proximity to State House pundits have it that many want it to be used as a landing bay for the president. That we remove the hospital and create a landing bay for the president. Other president, just in front of Annex, which is in front of War Memorial, there's another open field where some presidents, former president, have been using to land. But I think they want to change that. So what do you make of such? I'm sure, I don't know if it's an argument that buys water. I don't know if that is true. But what do you make of such an argument from our senator, Madam Keroche, and the fight that is about to ensue and the impeachment of one Susan Keheka?
you know, we should not materialize or personalize pregnancy. This is a matter that I behold so personally that at the point that I was very near to die, I was able to be helped by one Momero because my wife was able to go there because I was poor by then. I was so low in life that one memorial was able to help me. So I don't want to personalize or even politicize it. But Susan Kihika, where she has reached, she doesn't need to be a governor because she has politicized our personal lives. Yes.
I hope you're well, my brother. All right.
No, I'm well.
All right.
I'm well.
Oh, okay.
But I feel bad when she personalized our lives to a point whereby we have to discuss politics and life in the same level when we don't have to. When I was in Nakuru, when I started life in Nakuru, I was very poor. I was a peasant. Nilikuwa nakaa Shabe. Unajua Shabe mahali iko?
Yeah, I know Shabab. Yeah, I know Shabab.
Eh? So nilikuwa naanza life Shabe. Alafu huyu jamaa akatuforce tukaanza life huko Shabe. Tukaanza life tukabuild, alafu akafika mahali akashika akatuweka mahali, yani hata kuzaa tulikuwa tunalipa pesa. Hiyo ndio time bibi yangu alikuwa na shida, alikuwa akikuwa na mimba 12 months 11 months, alikuwa akikohoa na kukojoa.
Wait, your wife alikuwa anabeba pregnancy a whole year not 9 months?
No, haikuwa 9 months. Yake ilikuwanga 12 months.
What?
And alikuwa akikojoa na alikuwa akikohoa na alikuwa akikohoa na akikojoa damu.
Oh, okay.
Nikamlinda hiyo miaka yote. Alafu unafika miaka 12, alafu unasikia kuwa sasa, acha tu ninyamaze man. Mimi hii maneno ya NHIF sangine inanishinda kabisa. Nilikuwa nalipa NHIF ya nini? Kwa nini? Tuongee kitu kingine tafadhali. Hizi vitu zingine zinafanya nasikia uchungu sana. Si ati kwa sababu mimi binadamu sitaki kuongea juu yazo, ni kwa sababu the feel that I felt at my wife's pregnancy is still immortal in my life. Yeah.
I feel you, my brother. I really do. I feel you. Do you need a second?
No, tuende topic ingine.
Fantastic. Now umekuta tu nimemalizia, or rather nimechambua kidogo tu. I've just scratched the surface of it on what
Penny Yagaka, don't make a joke of me. Penny Yagaka, don't make a joke of me. My wife suffered during those more years when NHIF could not pay for anything. And I had to go for 12 months at home to take care of my mother, to take care of my wife. And I just married. I did not know what pregnancy meant. Penny Yaga cannot make, do not make.
I feel you. Pen Nyagaka is your uncle. I know he means no harm. So we were talking about yeah. We were talking about state capture. What do you understand by state capture, Ban Alex?
Yeah, state capture is when the state decides some people within the state decides to capture the state, and they decide to do things in a different ways, in their own ways. And I think today we have seen state capture within the judiciary. The judiciary has decided to sleep together with the current president, and now we are going to see not indifference. We are going to see the difference.
All right, I think Alex has dropped, but I'm sure he's coming back. Penyagaka, how are you? Mbona unachekelea Alex?
Hapana, I mean, Jakes. Waambie huyo kijana
you can't. I know you
No,
understand.
no. I was only reacting to Woody here. Me and Woody have been talking.
All right.
So where Alex say that I'm making jokes of him, I don't even know. I was only talking to Woody here.
I know.
How you doing, Kiango? And I'm doing good. So where this young man is coming from jumping that I'm making a joke of him, I don't make jokes out of stuff like that. That's naivete of the first order.
I know.
I don't do that. I was only talking to Goodyear.
Yeah.
That's it.
I understand. It happens. I know you understand that Alex is not doing well. So at times he has such instances. So I understand him, and I really understand you as well. But he was trying to explain.
He thought I was talking to him, but I wasn't even talking to him.
I know. It
reacting to what Goodyear was telling me.
Yeah. Now, we are talking about state capture, and there's a guest I'm expecting. I hope they make on time. But before then, allow me to ask you, what is from where you sit? What would you describe as state capture?
Well, according to what they are saying, is all those gentlemen that were trying to change the elections where they reflect that it was Raila Odinga who won, and it was from the Army General to everybody that went there to see Chibukati early in the morning and the wee hours of the day, so that they can rearrange the government according to how they wanted, how the state wanted it, how Kenyatta or Uhuru wanted it, not how the Kenyan had voted. So that's the only thing that they are trying to correct, and it will take time. Alex, I was not even talking to you. Alex, I was talking to Goodyear, and Goodyear was communicating to me. So where you say that I'm making jokes out of you, I don't even get it. Alex.
No, Uncle, I remember how after we voted for Jaramogi Odinga in 2005, we were chased in Kisumu. And I remember my sister was pregnant then. And I remember how things went bad for us. You know very well, Uncle. You know what ordeal we went through.
Well, the 95, I agree with you, and that's when Mzee Moi stole the election from Mzee Oginga Odinga. And by Friday, Raila Odinga came to Kisumu with Mzee Oginga.
Kibaki, not Odinga. That was Kibaki.
Okay, no, I was talking about the area. I was talking about the earlier one that Moy really stole from Mzee Oginga Odinga. And when Mzee Oginga Odinga brought him back to Kisumu and said that if they have announced that it's Moy that has won, he's the one who has won. And a lot of people in Kisumu were very mad, but they didn't do anything. Now, right now about the Nakuru, Alex, I will not make jokes like that. And I've not made any joke. That's very naive, if that's what I would do. I was only reacting to what Goodyear was addressing me, and you were talking to Jakes. And me, I was talking to Goodyear, not you. There's no reason why I should laugh at your tragedy. You come on, you make me even feel emotional about it. No. I cannot do that. And that's why, Jakes, I told you I'm coming to Kenya. And it's a long story about that. But Alex, get that straight. I've not joked about you in Nakuru or anything. No.
So Mzee, we came from campaigning from Jaramogi, and we rested for 2 days. So I came to my house, which is in Syokimau, in Nakuru. So after 2 days, I saw some killings in Kisii. So I came to Kisii SDA church. Miyenda was still the SDA chairman in Kisii. But the Catholic was the current guy. What is his name? The current guy was the chairman for the SDA church. So we came there. So after we came there, we found there was so many killings that had come from Kericho. So we decided to help them. So one of them was from Bomet. They came from Bomet. They had 1 chicken, and they had three almost watatu. Almost no matter almost ninki. Almost no almost tokoro ka sege songo.
Alex.
No, I'm asking Mzee to tell me how do we call it almost as in English, how do we call it? I'd forgotten. So there was 3 of them. And then we came to Kisii, and the Kisii community was totally devastated with what Ruto had done in the Bomet community about our people. And we started crying. And by the time, let me not even remember that time, man. I tell you, it was the worst time in my life, whereby I used my own wife. I remember me going to Kericho. We picked some men from South Mogirango who are called Chingororo. And I used my own car, which was a PJ Pajero at that time. We went to what is called, we went to the area that was having a demand for fight. And there, 2 of them were chinsare, ngakitokoro ka chinsare, umukaka penny, ngakitokoro ka chinsare aseke songo.
Alex, I hope you're well, but honestly, I can't understand the language. The dialect is quite difficult.
No, but we were bastard with arrows in our necks. And I remember taking one of these people in the hospital with the arrows in their necks. I don't know why Penny is not talking here. Penny is know very well. And that's why we as Kisses, we told Ruto, you must apologize for what you did to our people. This is what also Matiang'i told Ruto that you introduced terrorism into our own people. Let me leave it there. I'm so emotional.
I feel you, my brother. Yes, yes, Ben.
Yeah, but it was mostly be what that really nailed our people, because in 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, I used to go to Kenya like 3 times a month, a year. And we carried people that had a lot of luggage on top of their heads and stuff like that. And we would hire for people, I mean, from Kericho on down, or from Nakuru on down. Ban Forest, that's where most of the cases suffered a lot. So what Alex saying is true, and some of us really paid for them to go through. We never had a experience vile huyu kijana anasema yangu Alex. Lakini the most prominent person at that time was the total man, the what. He was even the one that hired for all those halos to be shipped from either Taiwan or Korea, so that they can come do damage to the Kikuyus and the Kisis and live to fight it. Yeah.
All right. So, Alex, you are helping us discuss what is state capture. Yes, Alex, you are helping us define what state capture was. Ama is.
Yeah, give me a few minutes. Give me a few minutes.
All right. All right. So I'm laughing because of how Alex at times comes and makes some Bapenya Gaka, equally, you are saying you're coming to Kenya?
Yeah, oh yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what do you make of Raila's assumption that there is state capture in Kenya?
Well, I mean, Ruto is trying to. I think the court, when he's talking to the court, that's probably what Laila is talking about. But even Maraga had requested to talk to Kenyatta, but Kenyatta did not consider that. We don't know why, but he did, and there was no much criticism on Maraga requesting to have an audience with the president. But this time, Mother Kome asked to have an audience with the President Ruto, and there's a lot of uproar, and that's where even the leader of the opposition is saying that it's a state capture. So I did not know which is which, because what is good for the gander is good for the goose.
Okay.
Either way. So I don't understand why when Maraga requested it, it was okay. But when Comey requests is because, he's used a very bad word, kama ni maraya, walale together, walale pamoja, and that was an insult. But as usual, the media in Kenya does not see anything the opposition say to be bad, but anything the government says is terrible and evil. So we don't know which is which. Yeah, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
too.
Now, what do you make of the pending impeachment of Susan Kehega? And of course, this time round, it's being sponsored by none other than our Senator, Madam Keroche. What do you make of it?
But they say they are sisters, right?
They are more than sisters. These two people paired in campaigning for one another. In any case, one Susan Keheka held the hand of the senator and introduced her, helped her campaign. Keroche is not as eloquent in public as Susan is, and so Susan was the curtain raiser. She really did a lot to help her be. Of course, Uhuru Kenyatta had campaigned for Keroche through how he had really made her suffer in her business and all, so that really worked for her favor. But when it came to how she was embraced by the public and all, Susan Keheka really played a role in it. And now that kuko na challenge hiyo ya War Memorial, ndio hii sasa wanasema let's impeach the governor. As much as there are other reasons that many might cite that could be more important than War Memorial that can really be cited, and really many would support the impeachment, but it is what it is, and hey, we have that loading, the impeachment of one Susan Keheka. I don't know, but what do you make of it?
Well, if the reason is enough to impeach her, let it be, because some of us grew up with their dad that was really a living terrorist. He used to go all the way to Parliament, and Anyona would hide so that Kiga Kimani doesn't. He goes there with a gun, doesn't kill her. But to see that his daughter is so popular as to be a governor of a state is really a surprise to us, because we grew up terrorized by him. So, the rest of the impeachments, come on, it is valid. It is valid. She should be impeached if she's not doing her job, because to run around with Ruto and you cannot produce or you cannot make a difference in where you're a governor, she has it coming. And I don't know what differences they have had with their sister, Yukeroche Abayo. She's recommending for her impeachment. I thought the impeachment came from the county MCAs, and we'll go from there. But some of us have had ideas I've had the information that she has been in trouble for a long time. That is that. If they have to impeach her, let it be. I mean, we don't want to be, ruled by a very corrupted people. And why could she change the War Memorial into a landing site for Ruto? I mean, what kind of airplanes they going to use? They use all the helicopters to get there. Even with the Kenyatta, Ruto, Moi and the Kibaki use the same. Is what you say is more than it meets the eye. Yeah.
All right. There's this mzee, I'm sure labda ni jamaa wa hudi ya mahali unatoka, anaitwa Atwoli. Today I may advise the government. Before I even ask you to tell me your sentiments about it, I want to play what Atwoli said today and how he advised the president. It was interesting to hear Atwoli for the first time speak out in matters concerning this government in a different way than what we have known Atwoli to be speaking. And today he spoke about the Kenya Shilling, and that's what we are about to talk about. And this is what one Atwoli, the court to Secretary General, had to say.
Mr. Atwoli has called out the government on what he terms as irresponsible borrowing, saying that is plunging the country into a debt hole. Atwoli challenged the government to seek alternative lenders and development partners, saying that the conditions set out in IMF and World Bank loans are making life unbearable for Kenyans. The unionist also called the government to come up with an urgent solution to lower the cost of living.
Did you hear something called structural adjustment programs?
The Central Organization of Trade Unions, COTU, has slammed the government over its increased appetite for borrowing and dalliance with the Bretton Woods institution, the IMF and World Bank, whose lending conditionalities are making life unbearable for Kenyan workers. COTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli accused the Central Bank of Kenya of collaborating with the lenders to intentionally devalue the Kenya shilling, further driving the cost of living to astronomical levels.
To put a stop on depreciation of a shilling, it doesn't reflect the actual economic activities on the ground, unless if they are answering to World Bank and IMF. And this will be dangerous to the Republic of Kenya. When a shilling goes down the way it is going, rates go up, everything is going to go up, and the general public will stand up against the government, and it will cause havoc, chaos in the country, and confusion in the country, and we will not have a government.
While releasing a report titled Turning the Tide on Kenya's Economy, Recovery and Prosperity Through the Workers' Lenses, Atwoli pointed that current taxation policies have negatively impacted the Kenyan employees and urged the government to urgently restore investor confidence as a solution to job creation. Atwoli also questioned the government's wisdom of borrowing, saying the government cannot get out of a mess created by unmitigated borrowing, which he says has exposed Kenyans to overtaxation, which is unsustainable.
We must also ask our economists in the government, those in Treasury and Central Bank of Kenya, to appropriately advise the government that overborrowing is dangerous. When people are highly taxed, people resort to applying black market system. Like now, for example, pay bills are no longer working in Kenya. How is the government going to realize revenue for the purposes of running the same government? So government must review that area of taxation.
The union also proposes that the government should embrace stakeholder engagement across all levels and fully implement the outcomes of such engagements. Mary Moore.
Now, Bwana Pen, I know you say you are vested in matters economy kidogo, but what do you make of Atwoli's advice to the president? Because he's really hitting the nail this time on the head. You know, he's talking about taxation. He's talking about the weakening Kenya shilling. He's talking about the borrowing in the government. What do you make of his sentiments?
His sentiments are very confused because he's really attacking the Bretton Woods institutes, which their borrowing is a different category or level to the borrowing that Kenyatta was doing through the central banks. I mean, the banks of international banks. But the Bretton Woods institutes, yes, they do come with regulations on how the economy should run. But he's blaming the Bretton Woods Institute in and of themselves that they are the reasons why the economy is the shilling is going lower than the dollar as it is. But that's not true, because the shilling will go up or down depending on how much we are selling to the outside world or how much is coming to us. In this case, we are buying from outside, not selling anything. Those countries that sell, they even pump money for their banks. I mean, the Chinese and the Indians, for example, they want their money to go so low like Kenya is now, so that they can sell more to the outside world. So Atwoli is confusing the two. The shilling was being propped up by the other central bank manager that was there, and this other guy who come over there has taken out the propping up of the shilling. So the shilling is falling because of that. But if you want the shilling to go up, you can pop up the shilling and pay money
the dollar nation, which is United States, so that it can pump the shilling, higher. So the two is.
But then again, Bwana Nyagaka, if that is something to go by, yes, they told us that we had created can I say a wrong impression on our shilling against the dollar. Now, if that is so, they didn't tell us up to what degree, how much had we overvalued our shilling. They never shared that info. Today, the shilling, I think, is trading at 166. That is quite different from what the norm, what Uhuru left and what Nani is now trading on. It's quite a huge margin. I want you to listen to this and even look at how the shilling is behaving. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Let's look at this one and see if Atwoli had a point.
Shows that the shilling continues to take a beating from other major world currencies in a trend that has many observers, consumers, and experts worried as the prices of imported commodities continue to rise. Consider this: the Kenya shilling is being quoted at 157 shillings and 39 cents against the United States dollar, which is almost double the exchange rate 10 years ago in 2013, which stood at an average of 86 shillings and 31 cents. The range seemed to start beating the shilling between the year 2014 and 2015, where the shilling slid 12% against the dollar in 1 year, compared to other years where it held its own, like the 2017 period. Now, big slide was also witnessed between 2019 and 2020, and for every subsequent year thereafter. This slide has major ramifications for an economy seeing the price of some important commodities like foodstuff and steel products continue to trend upward consistently. We'll be bringing consistent special coverage on this and similar issues in a subsequent bulletin and in our sister publication, the newspaper Tomorrow, as we bring you a breakdown of the fall of the Kenyan shilling, which data from the Central Bank of Kenya shows that the shilling continues to take a beating from other major working currency in a trend that has many observers and consumers and experts worried about the prices of imported commodities into the country. But at the same time, Kotu boss Francis Atwoli now wants the government to put in place measures to control the free fall of the shilling. Addressing the media today, Atwoli said it was high time the National Treasury and Central Bank of Kenya intervened to save the shilling. He added that continued fall of the shilling to the dollar was actually affecting the life of Kenyans who cannot afford the high cost of products.
Most of you have seen the depreciation of our shilling. This is not a good thing. To us as labor leaders, and in a very short statement, we are asking the governor of the Central Bank of Kenya, together with the Honorable Minister in the Treasury, two of them, to put a stop on depreciation of our shilling. It doesn't reflect the actual economic activities on the ground, unless if they are answering to World Bank and IMF. And this will be dangerous to the Republic of Kenya. Because when you depreciate a shilling, when a shilling goes down the way it is going, rates go up, everything is going to go up, rents are going to go up, petroleum products are going to go up, needs and basic requirements, basic food will go up, and the public will stand up against the government and in the country, country and government.
All right. So you see, when you look at how the dollar against the shilling is behaving, and this is a trend that is on an upward trajectory. Like the shilling has failed to stabilize, despite what the president had said will happen. What do you make of it? Is it a failure by the government? Is it a failure by this government or the previous government? what would explain such a tremendous downfall of the shilling, and of course it translates to other things and other sectors. What would explain this, Bwana Nyagaka?
Actually, Jakes actually says that the free fall of the dollar of the shilling does not reflect the economic realities on the ground. That in itself is confusing, because if you are importing more stuff from outside the country, then it will affect everything on the ground. You cannot. How can you say that the fall of the shilling does not reflect the reality on the ground? It does, because you are buying petrol, you're buying cars, you're buying industrial material in dollars, so it has to affect the ground. So that if he has to call for the propping up of the shilling vis-a-vis the dollar, then you have to concentrate on that. And then when the stuff that you're buying from outside is cheaper, but the economy on the ground, the reality, unasema unanunua unga, unanunua mayai, everything here, we are buying with our shillings. Has nothing to do with the dollar. So the language you are talking is confusing in and of itself.
Okay.
The economics in the real is the dollar affects us when we import a lot of stuff from outside for local consumption, for industrialization, for all kinds of stuff. Then everything will go up in the prices. And as far as if you are producing matches, and then they are ripple effect. So let him not confuse the two. It is very real. Indirectly. The dollar being stronger than the shilling affects the ground because we import a lot of stuff, material that we use. So the economic reality on the ground is not the same. It is reflective of what the economy, of what the dollar, how the dollar affects us. There are countries that don't use the dollar, and they have their economy local, and the people are not. This is what the guy did in Burkina Faso. This guy Thomas Sankara did that a long time ago in 80s. And the French, whatever, he wasn't using it, but he had the people selling their stuff, outside and buying. And raising the food for themselves. They didn't have to raise the money up or down. But here, Kenya is different, because we are so much dependent on outside world. That's why it's affecting us the way it is. We are truly. It's time to retire past a long time.
When I don't know if you guys can be able to read what I'm projecting, but because of that shilling falling, the Kenya shilling falling again vis-a-vis what the dollar is, this is what I'm reading on your screens, is that how Kenya banned 2 trillion in advance. Okay, how is that? Is because weakening the shilling has seen the treasury increase allocation for debt repayment by 240 billion, because of course you have to pay in dollars some of these things. So I think you pay with the current exchange rate. So according to what they're saying, our debts, when we are now repaying, already we are paying 240 billion more. So Atwoli could be right that the fall of our shilling is equally hurting. What, don't you agree with such a statement, Bwana Pen?
Yes, because it does reflect what is going on the ground. But when he says that the dollar does not reflect, whatever it is on the ground, is wrong, because it does. when the dollar is higher than the shilling, and we are so much dependent on outside world, so for our survival, then it's very difficult. It has to be very difficult. The popping up of the shilling was necessary by the last administration, so that we can depend on the dollar even more. But now taking out the structures of propping up the shilling has to get the dollar, I mean the shilling to fall below the dollar by far. So if we have to, I think what they are doing is better, but when it is difficult right now, because when it's hard for us not to be depending outside the world for survival. Hiyo ndio natusumbua hapo hapo. Na shilling ikienda vile naenda, then everything is also negative on us. Yeah.
What, ladies and gentlemen, you can see on your screen is just a picture statement on what you have listened on what Atwoli said, and this is a quote from that speech you have listened to. Atwoli is saying that we are asking the governor of Central Bank of Kenya, together with the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, to put a stop to the depreciation of our shilling. This will be dangerous because when the shilling depreciates the way it is going, everything will go up, and the general public will stand up against the government. So already Atwol is equally even throwing in caution that if nothing is done, the general public, because eventually things will begin to go up, because if things are imported at very high exchange rate of the dollar, of course it's almost obvious that when now they'll be sold here in Kenya, they'll be sold at very huge prices. The exchange rate will affect the prices here locally. So that in its sense is at all says might bring an uproar from the general public, and they may stand up against the government. Don't you see some sense in it that when 190 is unable to afford the basic necessities, the basic needs, or even lack the purchasing power, don't you think eventually mwananchi atafika place aseme, you have already taxed us enough, you have already taken so much from us, it is only fair that you try to stabilize the shilling and every other thing? So when mwananchi feels amefika thresh point, don't you think this in its actual sense, as Atwoli is saying, we may see people standing up against the government?
Yes. When the people suffer, that's what I was saying, agreeing with you, Jake, like Kwamba, if they want the prices or the better lifestyle of the Kenyans, they have to pop up the dollar, because we are so much dependent on us surviving from the outside world. Now, that being the case, then the hardship that the fellow Kenyans feel will continue. But if you pop up the shilling, and therefore the prices of petrol, of anything that we import is lower, then the life will be simpler. It will be better for us. So it's two different ideas, but at the same time, you're popping up of the dollar, make the people lazy to produce, even to think about mechanization, where we can import our own stuff, like what the Chinese have done, what the Indians have done. But if we have to pop up the shilling, then life will be comfortable, and the people don't apply themselves in that way. But that's why we're saying that if it's free economy, then you have to let the dollar fall, but the people will not understand, because life will be very hard. So it is the two. It's one of the two. So what Trump, Atwoli is proposing is an idea of a controlled economy. That is the economies of the Russia and stuff like that, where people like the Chinese have moved away from. The Indians have moved away from that, but they have controlled they have lowered their money and even pay for the money to be lower so that they can sell whatever they produce more of. But we don't have anything to sell other than flowers and coffee and stuff like that. That they can, and the prices of those commodities are set elsewhere, not even in Africa. And therefore, we have a problem like that. It's a very simple problem. Yeah.
Now, there is new changes that will be happening now that the courts agreed that NHIF and SHIF, formerly NHIF and NSSF, continue as how the government had proposed. And ladies and gentlemen, these are the new measures and these are the new taxes that will apply on your payslip come next month. Now that the government was given a go ahead. Now, this I'm looking at a different screen so that I'm able to read. They're saying after the new SHIF and NSSF rates, of course, were now which now will be affecting your payslip, top earners will get a significant pay cut, taking into account housing levy and the new tax bracket. Of course, kukona housing levy that applies, okay, and now there is that SHIF, NSSF, and the housing levy, and equally the payee, among many other taxes. So if you are being paid a salary of around 20,000, yeah, the net after taxes back then in 2022 was 19,050 after government imekukata. Of course, wale walikuwa below 24,000 walikuwa wamepata some degree of taxes exemption. So the expected pay now will be 16,990. So at a whooping 3,000 will be deducted from someone who was getting 1950 in 2022. Now, after these changes come into play, you'll be paid around 16,990. So the government will part ways with around 2,110 shillings. All right. If you are being paid 50,000, between 20 and 50,000, initially your payee. After payee and all the deductions, the net pay was 41,540 and 65 cents. But after NHIF and NSSF applied, this will be the new salary, 38,656. That will be the new pay for taxpayers. Anyone between 50,000 and 100,000. If before these changes, you used to get around 76,041 shillings. But after SHIF has been introduced and NSSF and the housing levy, you'll be paid 71,530. All right, a difference of around 5,000. If your salary is around 800,000 thereabout, after they deduct your NSSF and your SHIF and your housing levy, what you take home will be 500,000. That was what you used to take home, 500,000. 566,041 shillings. But after the levy and the taxation, this is what you'll be taking home, 522,813, a decline of 4K. All right. If you're earning a million, all right, in 2022, this is what you take home, a net pay of 706,041 shillings. But after the new charges, you'll be taking a difference of 644,335. All right. If you earn 2 million, what you take home initially in December of 2022 was 1.46041 million. But now, after the deductions, the new deductions, you take 1.251835 million. All right. If you earn anything above 5 million, what you take home is a whooping. In December, you take 3.506 million. But after the deduction, the new deduction, what you take home will be 3.07335. That is around a 50,000 increase in what was deducted from your pay slip. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the taxes have increased. That is obvious. But equally, our loans have increased. We are still borrowing. We were told tulipe ushuru ili tuache kukopa. But it's like, I don't know. I even don't know what to say. Because we didn't stop borrowing. In fact, we increased our appetite of borrowing. And that's what Atwal is talking about. That we are borrowing more than we used to. Our appetite for borrowing has gone up to the level that mpaka IMF watuambia, ai manze, hey, kanyangieni kiasi. To other matters making headlines over the same, Treasury chief steps down. Okay. Director General for Public Debt Management Harold Serima exits Treasury after 6 years following mounting pressure from activist group over ballooning national debt and recent cancellation of $300 million Eurobond repurchase plan. Of course, he had to step down because of the same. So we are having challenges paying our debts. We are seriously taxing our people. We are equally borrowing, and the country is I don't know. You are there, you know, you will judge for yourself. I'll just give you the sentiments. Wewe utajijajia mwenyewe. We are paying heavily kwa sababu pia our shilling is not doing well. Kotu now through Atwoli is now complaining. But the president always assures us that the country is still doing okay. All right. But IMF equally has criticized William Ruto's government for continuing with the fuel subsidies. Really? Has that one continued? I thought alisimamisha. Oh my, ladies and gentlemen, I thought IMF, they know very well subsidies zilisimamishwa, and that's why fuel price zilishoot up once William Ruto alipoingia into office, kwa sababu alisema he cannot subsidize consumption, he can only subsidize production. But IMF wanna criticize William Ruto for continuing to subsidize fuel. I don't know how they are doing it. But I remember kulikuwa na kitu kwa nasema there was a company, they said that there's a maintenance ambayo kaliambiwa kamewekwa ama kametolewa kakusaidia mafuta isipande sana. That's how they said it. They didn't call it subsidies, and I think Parliament debated on this. Jamaa Junet aliwaambia mwache kuipea majina different. They should say it's just subsidy. They were saying they are just cautioning Kenyans so that the shilling, the petrol is kwe juu sana. But IMF now ndio how wanasema, you know what, hey, wadau, tulikuwa tumewaonya hizi stories za kusubsidize fuel. All right. So that is that. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the story that I equally looked at yesterday was the story where 300,000 Kenyan students are yet to join Form 1. You know, the sad story about that was, and I asked you, I think as I started this program, tunakuanga na so many funds, CDF, you know, capitation from government, you know, governors wanatoa bursaries, MCA pia siku hizi ni kama wako na bursary, Unasikia pia kuko na senators ambao wamejitwika mzigo, wanasema pia wao through their ways they have been able to get bursaries. So bursaries ziko na karibu all these leaders. Yeah? Banks pia zinakujanga zinasema zinasaidia wanafunzi because we see initiatives like the Wings to Fly among such. But eventually, after all is said and done, we still have very sad cases, very sad, of children yet to join school. Children who scored awesome results, who really walijituma kabisa, walijituma, walienda shuleni, wakatia bidii, wakajisatiti, wakajituma kabisa. All right, a child scores quite impressive marks. All right, but unfortunately, despite them scoring such marks and being called to grand schools, schools that you may say are fantastic schools, national schools, public schools, despite all that, Awanado. And I was looking at the maths, ladies and gentlemen, and I know you'll help me do the maths together. I was looking at the maths, and it was interesting. It was quite interesting on if it is 300,000, if it's 300,000, all right, if it's 300,000 children ambao wako home, let's imagine wote walipiwa 20k, wote, all those children, let's imagine their school fees. So I've just taken the lowest figure because kuna wale wameitwa day schools, kuna wale wameitwa boarding schools, kuna wale wameitwa public schools, kuna zile za 28k, kuna zile za of course those huge prizes. All right, so we are looking at 300,000. If you multiply that by 20,000, we are talking about 6 billion. 6 billion. Around there, around 6 billion, thereabout. 6 billion. Do you know how much goes to CDF? Over 53 billion, thereabout. Do you know how much? Wacha tuache kupiga hizo hesabu, utachoka kichwa kama mimi venye nilichoka. But cha kusikitisha ni ya kwamba despite all these bursaries, 300,000 students will be missing their ability to move from class 8 to form 1. Listen to this.
Continues to mop up about 300,000 candidates who sat KCPE in last year, 2023, and are yet to report for their secondary schools education. Questions have emerged over how these huge numbers of learners missed school fees. Who is benefiting from the various bursaries and scholarships cutting access, well, across elected leaders and private institutions? Is there fair criteria of distributing these funds, or are the resources benefiting unserving learners? Let's begin our broadcast. Our very own Chem Taigo in.
It is the second week since Form 1 students reported for their first time of learning across the country. However, hundreds of thousands are still stuck at home for lack of school fees, this prompting the government to begin mopping up the learners to achieve its 100% transition policy. But the bigger question is, why are these students struggling? Yet there are a number of available modes of funding, including NGCDF, scholarships through private institutions, and other programs run by elected leaders. One such worrying case is that of Salome Cheptoo from Belgut constituency, who despite scoring 370 marks, is yet to report to Moi Siongiroi Secondary School for her secondary education due to her inability to secure funding. A similar story shared by Vivian Cherotich from Kipkelion West constituency, who is watching as her light slowly dims.
Mimi nilijaribu ya county, lakini mimi sikupata yeyote. Ya Equity mimi sikupata. Tena ya elimu program scholarships sikupata. Na ya help sikupata. Tulienda kujaribu ya CDF, ikasemekana kwamba kwanza niende shule alafu nipata admission, alafu sasa nijaze form, lakini sijaenda shule kwa sababu fees inatakikana hiyo siku. Kwa familia yangu hakuna mwenye join secondary school. Nikipata nafasi nitakuwa wa kwanza ili nasaidia mandugu zangu na familia yangu.
This raises questions on what is the criteria of distribution of bursaries and why are so many needy cases like that of Salome still seeking financial support. In the 2022-2023 financial year, the National Constituency Development Fund NGCDF has been allocated an estimated 53.5 billion shillings. Members of Parliament are allowed to spend at least 40% of their allocation per constituency on bursaries. In this case, that translates to slightly over 20 billion shillings. Besides NGCDF, there is 22,000 shillings in capitation by the government for day scholars. County governments also offer scholarships. This besides scholarship programs offered by private institutions and the national government under Elimu scholarship program. With all these, why are needy students still locked out? Is there disparity in the distribution? Are there students that are receiving multiple funds? Former Kenya Secondary School Heads Association National Chairman Kahindi Muli admits that there is a challenge in management of bursaries, proposing that there should be a central point where all beneficiaries are listed to address cases of one student getting multiple bursaries. It appears the matter has caught the eye of the government. Basic Education Principal Secretary Belio Kipsang says they are moving to institute measures that will deal with possible instances of discrimination.
We are revamping Jomo Kenyatta Foundation so that it can be able to coordinate all these bursaries. It can be able to build a database of all beneficiaries so that there is no double dipping. A child does not benefit from CDF, from the county, from Elimu. So we are revamping Jomo Kenyatta Foundation so that it can be able to provide this coordination and support to all our partners in this particular area of supporting our children.
In Kathiani constituency, MP Robert Mbui says the criteria for distribution is a people-led process. They receive an estimated 42 million shillings covering 8,000 students. The money is shared equally in the 22 wards. Then distribution is done in the villages where members determine the amount based on the need. Dagoretti North MP Beatrice Elachi acknowledges the challenges in distributing the bursaries.
Let us ensure as we go to CBC, we reorganize the system properly, that every child has a right, as per the Constitution of Kenya, to go to school. Now, even if you're saying they are going to school, yes, I will agree, you'll send all the money. So what happens to the effects? Because you find a parent who, a child has performed very well, and she comes and she just gives you.
With a solution not in sight just yet, it is the hope of needy students that they will stumble upon well wishers to breathe life to their secondary education dream. Chemutai.
Kuna hiyo statement ya huyo PS wa education Bwana Sang. Karibu nijiulize swali nikaacha kwanza nikajiuliza Mr. Sang, with all due respect, how long have you been a PS for education? Sorry for that. How long?
About 300,000 candidates.
Sorry for that. Oh, pole. Hiyo inaitwa madhara ya kukanyanga waya. How long has he been a PS? This man has served with PS Kaimenyi. He has served with CS Kaimenyi as a PS for education. He has served with CS Matiangi as a CS for education. Has served with Magoha as CS for education. Has served with Amina Mohammed as CS for education. Now serving with Machogu as CS for education. And now ndio mnataka all right. I don't want to even go from there. Nyinyi wadau mtajijazia. But hey wadau, I think it's time some of our leaders should be called out. It's time. Yeah, it's time. As a PS all that long, and it's now that Nakuhit we need to have a proper database. Sisemi kitu. Sisemi kitu. I have bad news. I had prepared a guest for you, but kuna venye sometimes things happen. things happened. I had a nice guest, an interesting guest. You guys mungempenda, but maybe another day we'll plan again. But asante sana for that bit that we had. Equally, thank you for those equally who tuned in and joined in. Watu wengi sana, asanteni sana. Kwa wengi ambao umetutazama, thank you very much. Imagine I still have many of you watching. Thank you so very much. Watu wangu wa comment section, siniwashukuru tu sana. Akina Goodia, you guys are just but amazing. Sinisome tu baadhi ya sentiments zenyu ambazo mmetuma. Goodia ulisema hivi, ulisema that the bursary normally goes to well-off kids or parents, and that's why people need to start fighting for the poor. I agree, Goodia. I agree. It's time, because 300,000, it's just 6 billion. Yes, it is. It's just 6 billion. 6 billion. In short, we can say hii story ya CDF hata tusiwatumie kwanza. The 300k when you wako home kwanza wote walipiwe shule kwanza, and then baadaye MP akisikia tagawia wenye anagawia fine. 6 billion is the difference between these children being in school and them being at home. And I'm sure there is a 6 billion somewhere being looted by a CS, by an MP, by a governor somewhere. There's some 6 billion being wasted somewhere. Yes, I'm confident saying so. There is money being stashed somewhere. 6 billion is what is keeping these children out of school. All right. Goodia equally said that the guy decides to resign in the middle of chaos. Of course, she's talking about the guy mwenye ameresign kwa sababu ya pressure ya kuambiwa what do you call it? Resign kwa sababu ya the money ambayo imekuwa ikipotea under huge debts. Okay, good. Yeah, unasema kwamba to put it in layman's language, we sell stuff out in dollars. For example, buying an egg from out is 163 shillings and selling it outside is $1. That's what Atwoli is not explaining. Okay, Bwana Geoffrey Ruto is saying the Ministry of Education is a mess. Nothing is working. Bure sana. All right. Mfinyi unasema ya kwamba I don't believe Atwoli. Once a puppet, always a puppet. He's acting Ruto's script. This is just to blindfold us, just the same way Kome did. All right. Okay. Can I read one more from Eli? Eli anauliza hapa swali. I think ilikuwa an exchange between him and Goodia. Na wengi ambao mliparticipate, comments ni kibao, singeweza kuwa na kuzisoma zote, but asante sana watu wa comment section. You guys are amazing and I always salute you. Asante sana kwa kufanya show kuwa kali. All right, thank you very very much. Okay, so tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. we have another one. All right, we'll be looking at the Kenya shilling among many other details concerning our economy and many other things. So you don't want to miss that show. Yeah, you don't want to miss the show. We'll be looking at the papers and what equally is making news headlines. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That has been my time. Sorry for the guest. I hope atakuwa in the next show, but thank you very very much. Asante sana for being part of this. Let's keep the conversation going. We love our country. That's why we discuss. Not that we have any vendetta against anyone. It's because we truly love our country. God bless you. See you tomorrow morning, and again, same time, same place, tomorrow evening for such a show. All right, goodbye. God bless you. Good night.
Tunasonga mbele watu wote wa Jamhuri Kenya yetu. Tunasonga mbele watu wote wa Jamhuri Kenya yetu. Haya sisi sote wananchi tushangilie. Kwa Jamhuri. Tangu Kenya iwe huru, mwaka wa 60 wananchi tushangilie. Eko jamhuri, eko jamhuri, sote eko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Eko jamhuri, sote eko jamhuri, eko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Kweli twaenda mbio, Kenya yaenda mbele. Kwa elimu twaenda mbele, matibabuni twaenda mbele, viwandani twaenda mbele, na mashambani twaenda mbele. Eko jamhuri, sote eko jamhuri, eko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele. Eko jamhuri, eko jamhuri, sote eko jamhuri, Kenya yetu yaenda mbele.
Tunajivunia Kenya nchi yetu, kweli yapendeza, kweli yavutia. Tunajivunia